Hello everybody, Bill, SixRounds Studio. Today we're starting a new project, and believe it or not, it's another Stevens favorite. Right now, I'm looking all of this stuff up. Right now, these Stevens favorites, they're coming up in value in the collector market. Everything Stevens has been sort of ignored over the years, but they are starting to come up. They're starting to become more desirable. Part of that reason is Stevens made hundreds of thousands of these guns back in the early 1900s, and these boys rifles, as they called them, were just really desirable for youngsters. You know, today we worry so much about these young kids getting access to firearms, but back in the early 1900s, I mean, we literally produced guns just for kids. So, I mean, the boys' rifles, they had the girls' rifles, they had all kinds of these 22 caliber rifles. Now, I've got this one in for restoration. This one is in tough shape. It has so many things wrong with it, from a broken stock in the toe. This thing is really rusty from end to end, lots of pitting. We're going to have to take that out. This is going to make a great series for you guys as I take this thing through the process of restoring it back to something that looks like original. Now, what's significant is, even though these are both the same, they're different. This one, the one that we've already done the restoration on, is an early Stevens favorite. This one is a later Stevens favorite, and it's called the model of 1915. That is significant, and we'll talk about that here in just a minute. If you guys want to see the story of Stevens, I did a video on the history of Stevens, a short one, and you can see that video in a link that I'm going to put in the description. Also in the description, you will find the playlist for the little Stevens favorite that I did last or early this year. So that whole thing is there for you to look at, and I'll put a link to that again in the description as well. These little Stevens, they're actually really attractive little guns, and they're fun to work on because they're really quite simple. When we start the restoration of this little rifle in an upcoming video, I will go through this in great detail and show you the things that we have to repair and the things that we have to fix. In just a quick example, there is so much rust on this, so much pitting, that we're going to have to really work to get that done. One of the significant differences between this early Stevens favorite and the Stevens favorite from 1915, or the model of 1915, and this gun, this model of 1915, was manufactured by J. Stevens from 1915 up till 1920, when Stevens sold out to the Savage Company. Savage did make a copy of this in much later years. And matter of fact, recent manufacturer, so they made that from 1998 until 2012. So there are modern versions of these things. But this isn't original. This goes back to, like I said, somewhere between 1915 and 1920. The bones are all here. The potential for this is all here. This was a 22 Winchester mag. This one is a 32 rimfire, so they are different. Matter of fact, Stevens made this in 22 long rifle, 22 Winchester rimfire, 25 and 32 caliber. This is the 32. I don't know that it's all that much more rare, but you generally see these in 22 calibers before you'll see them in these calibers. This gun was stored in really poor conditions. It was stored in a garage here in the Northeast, and that garage was unheated, unclimate controlled. So it went through these multiple heat and cooling cycles, along with cycles of humidity. So if you're not taking care of your rifles, if you're storing them in locations like that, you need to go out and check on them and oil them up occasionally. This one was not cared for, so it is really rusty and really pitted. So we're going to take care of all that. We're going to try to bring this thing back to its glory. Now, one of the significant changes in the Stevens Favorite from 1915, or the model 1915, is they made the receiver heavier, more robust. And if we do some measurements, so I've got back this Stevens Favorite that we did, and if we were to measure the width of the receiver, do this without scratching it, it is 870 thousandths. If we were to measure the width of the upgraded version, it is 935. It is 80 thousandths thicker overall on the receiver. Again, trying to make this a much more robust finish. And if we were also to check the, I want to get this out of the way before I ding it. And if we were to measure these top to bottom dimensions, they are also roughly 80 thousandths heavier. So overall, this receiver is much heavier. So that, why did they do it? I don't know. To take the higher pressures and stand the test, I guess. But anyway, if we look at the price guide, it says that it was a redesign of the original Stevens Favorite. The action is slightly heavier, stronger, and it has a blue receiver, and that again is a significant difference. All of these earlier Stevens, they had the color case, or the receiver was case finished, which left that color on there, and we replicated that color on this receiver. This one is blued, so we're not going to do the color case on this one. We're going to blue it. Walnut stock and forearm, and it has the walnut stock and forearm. And it had other internal changes. I haven't had this thing apart yet, so what those internal changes are, I don't know. So we need to dig into this thing and start to disassemble it. However, I mean, there are some other things. There are some things wrong with this. For instance, I can't get the barrel seated back into the receiver fully because the extractor is all hung up. It's either rusted in place or something is broken inside. So we're going to get into that and figure out what's broken or what's keeping it from allowing this barrel to come back. So there's a there is a divot hole in here, or a hole, a catch hole here that this thumb screw fits in. There's another difference that we can see quickly, is the thumb screws went from this flippy floppy thing to a real thumb screw, and you see that in all the documents. So there's another difference. Again, everything is heavier, a little bit more robust. The forearm's in really good shape. This one I had to do a repair on, but this one's in good shape, and we ought to be able to refinish that pretty good. There's not a lot of deep dings in this thing, so we're going to be able to steam it and clean it. There is a little bit of tiger stripe in here too, which seems to be pretty typical of these Stevens. So we should be able to get a really nice looking stock when we're done. Yeah, so today's video, I need to soak this thing in oil. I need to, I'm going to run a rag or a brush up through the barrel, and I need to get this receiver soaking in oil, because before I start taking it apart, I want to make sure that it's had time to sit in oil and to loosen up all those parts. And the barrel, I'm not sure how I'm going to handle that yet. But all right, so what I want to do in the rest of this episode is I want to pull the wood off and then start soaking this thing in oil. It's going to be interesting to see how much rust is into this forearm. Oh, actually, that's nice and clean. That's nice and clean. That looks good. So let's get the buttstock off. It's actually amazing how easy that's coming apart because this is a wood screw though. That was easy. All right, there's that. Internally, this thing looks really clean, and there is no rust in there, which is good. Dirty, really dirty. So, again, before I start to take this apart, I do want to let it sit in oil for a little bit. So that is my sit in oil dish. So we're going to let it soak in this stuff, not sponsored. And we'll come down and we'll roll this over every couple hours. So I also want to run a rag or a brush up through that barrel. So I don't have any idea how good the quality of this rifling is. When I look down, it's pretty shallow looking. We're going to find out here. I need to get it cleaned up. God bless the dirt. So they were starting to run smokeless powder by this point, and I don't know if this was shot with smokeless or not. So you can get a sense of how much stuff was in there. I do have my dirty acetone can, because I don't want to use the same acetone that I use on woodworking in here. Well, there is rifling, sort of. Sort of. I don't know if I can get a picture of that or not. There's rifling, sort of. I think sort of might be the optimum word here. It's okay. I think most folks are never going to shoot these things. They're just going to hang them on the wall and say Grampy owned it, or great-grandpa owned it, so we're gonna still do the restoration. All right, we're gonna roll this over and get it in the oil on the other side. We're going to start doing things just a little bit differently here on the channel. Rather than working on just one firearm restoration from beginning to end, I'm going to start working on multiple projects from beginning to end so that I can capture a bigger audience in the future. So we're working on this Stevens favorite. We're going to do this from beginning to end. We'll continue making videos. The other thing I'm going to start on here really soon, probably if not the next video within the next couple, is I got in this Winchester Model 7. This is one of Winchester's early semi-automatics. This one was manufactured in 1921. It's in 351 Winchester. That's a little tiny straight wall cartridge, and it's magazine fed. And do I have that? No, I don't have that. So what I want to do, before I take this apart, I want to get this down to the range, and I want to see if I can shoot it and see how well it works. But this is another gun we just got in. We're going to do the restoration on that. Same thing, we'll go through this and I'll explain what history I can find out about the rifle. And it's in really not too bad a shape. The metal is got a lot of patina. I'm probably going to restore the metal too, but definitely I want to restore the stock because the stock has some condition issue. It's starting to lose a lot of finish here. There is a crack in the forearm that I want to repair. All of this is going to make really great content for you guys over the next several months. And so in a recent poll, I asked you guys if you preferred episode numbers on the videos that I put up, or if the episode numbers don't matter to you. And most of you guys have said you prefer having episode numbers. I don't know, so that if you can go back and see previous episodes, or you can see where we are in the sequence of the restorations. I'm not really good at that, or haven't been really good at putting episode numbers down. I'll try to start doing that on each of these guns as I do the restoration, so that you get to follow in. The Stevens, this little Stevens here has its own playlist. The Ithaca 1905 has its own playlist. I will do a playlist for this Stevens, and I'll do a playlist for this, but I will also put in the episode numbers for you guys as well. So look forward to this this Model 7 Winchester. That'll be coming up here pretty quick. Guys, if you enjoyed the video, if you got something from it, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Interestingly, 90% of my viewers are not subscribers. So if you're watching this, help the channel grow, help boost me over that 10,000 sub mark. That's more of a vanity thing than it is anything else. I would like to beat that 10,000 subs. Guys, again, I appreciate you. I love you for being here. And I will see you in the next video, which is coming up pretty quick. Bye, guys.